Zoning Administrator Phil Schaefer, Senior Planner Allison Duncan, and the Clerk of the Planning and Zoning Board, Johanna Womack, are on the call, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Let's talk about our procedure. There's a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, the agent, or the property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners has granted an approval. The Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board, me, will conduct a public hearing. Mr. Roberts will announce each application, followed by the Planning and Zoning staff, who will present each application in full. Then either the applicant or their applicant's representative will have 15 minutes to present their request. Members of the public in favor of the application will be able to present their information. They will have 3 minutes per person for a total of 30 minutes to speak on behalf of the application. Members of the public in opposition to the application will be able to present their information. They also will have 3 minutes per person for a total of 30 minutes to speak in opposition to the application. After the opposition completes their input or the 30 minutes has elapsed, the public hearing will be officially closed. At this point, the staff will clarify any points of the zoning case. If the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board will then ask the applicant for points of clarification. Remember, this is not a time to represent your case. The Planning and Zoning Board will then entertain a motion. Mr. Roberts, would you please introduce our first and only agenda item today?
Yes, sir, I certainly will. It's C 2021-77, HPRE Development LLC. This is Richardson and Richardson Family Trust, Howell Living Trust. It's property owners. The location is Highway 92, Fairburn Road, Land Lot 130, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 16, Land Lot 130, District 1, Section 5, portion of Parcel 8, Land Lot 130, District 1, Section 5, portion of Parcel 1. The current zoning for these parcels is RLD, residential low density, and the future land use has this as community village center and urban residential. The requested zoning for this evening is CH, heavy commercial. It's on 38.49 acres, Commission District Number 2. Proposed use for this is offices and production facilities with accessory storage, specialty mechanical and construction facilities, and food services. The staff is recommending approval with condition. And this is Phil Schaefer's case, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Mr. Schaefer, Zoning Administrator, will you now provide the staff findings and recommendations for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
The property is requested is on the west side of Fairburn Road, north of Lee Road, on the east side of the James Road corridor. Subject property for this rezoning is currently undeveloped and forested, somewhat overgrown. Applicant is proposing to develop a mix of office spaces and primary production facilities served by accessory support uses, including shops and mechanical construction spaces and other support functions, storage and warehouse space, and food service spaces as follows. Dedicated office functions, approximately 64,500 square feet. Multi-use production facilities, 197,000 square feet. Support spaces, including shops, mechanical, specialized services of approximately 88,000 square feet. Storage and warehousing of approximately 72,000 square feet, and food service dedicated 10,000 square feet for a total of 431,000 square feet. This is rather large, so staff submitted to the Atlanta Regional Commission a letter requesting a determination as to whether or not the project would require a development of regional impact review process. We heard back from the Atlanta Regional Commission that as a result of the square footage threshold not being exceeded for either warehouse or office, or for the light industrial prospect that it was in fact a part of, that no DRI would be required, as well as no notification only process would be required. As I mentioned, the property is on the west side of Fairburn Road, east of the James Road corridor. It's highlighted here in green. The green is comprising 3 different parcels, a portion of a larger tract, which is and under the ownership of the Howell family, a portion of the Richardson family tract, and a smaller portion here. All three of these will be combined eventually. And as you can see, the surrounding zoning is a mix of residential low density along with commercial, as well as planned unit development across the street of, which is actually Legacy Park, which is D.R. Horton residential development. The Lee Road corridor is a little bit south of here, and we will get into the project that is planned for just south of this proposed development. The zoning will take place across the property as I've highlighted in green here. As there are three tracts, we will of course be doing some platting to be able to sever the tracts from their existing mother parcels, create a single tract, and create the ownership interest that the applicant is seeking. This is a picture of those three tracts as they sit. And here is the site plan that they've provided to us. I apologize, it's a little small at this scale. I blew it up a little bit so that you could see that there are a number of production facilities. It looks like 12 production facilities, support facilities, parking in between the buildings. I have highlighted three of their buildings in blue here so that you will see on the next few slides the buildings that they've provided us a little bit of a rendering for in 3D, so that this is the locations of those footprints. As you can see, there's quite an extensive array of parking around all of these production facilities. There's extensive parking areas between the production facilities. I will show you a slide that will make clear why that occurs. The office space is at the top right of your screen. There is a visitor center planned for the lower right of the screen. I will show you, this is a draft rendering showing the office building facing Fairburn Road. The entrance to the property will be a right in, right out off of Fairburn going into the site. There will be obviously guard duty here at the entrance. The production facility as well as the workshop facility and the office are what they've tried to display to us this evening in rendering form. This is another look of that a little closer up to see some of what the building will look like, including what the workshop and food service area will look like, what a production stage doors look like, whether there'll be artwork on the walls. We aren't sure yet. That depends, of course, on what gets produced here, and those murals may change over time as they normally do in other studios. They do have an interesting array of solar panels on the roof, which I would say is an added touch that I've been promoting for a couple of years. Here's another look at the property from back in the property towards Fairburn at the top to show, again, what the production facilities and workshop area will look like. This is pretty typical. Let me show you what a typical existing production facility looks like. As you can see, those wide parking areas between the buildings are to accommodate trailers for specialized purposes, for talent, for makeup, for whatever other functions need to occur before you walk into the studio, along with equipment trailers that will surround an active studio, outside parking along the perimeter for employees and workers that will be assisting in the production. Again, this is just another shot of an existing studio south of Atlanta. Look at what it looks like when you're inside the parking lot behind one of the buildings, just so you can get a feel for it. Again, inside one of these larger production studios, what you can do inside those studios. This is just to illustrate some of the accessory ancillary uses that the other buildings would be put to. Obviously, there will be shops and mechanical, there'll be storage and model building, there'll be equipment storage, there'll be a significant amount of file storage. Obviously, there'll be some commissary and food service. Again, some of the interiors of an active facility to show the larger production areas, the smaller production areas, what they might be put to, some of the production actually engaged in as we're looking at it. I would like to just take a moment now to put into context the larger picture that we are looking at with the Lee Road widening, as well as the planned unit development being proposed to the south of this project, which is what you see in these different colors here along the extension of Fairburn Road over to Bomar. This project is coming quick on the heels of tonight's project, and we expect within the next month that we will be seeing more fleshed out and seriously detailed plans for this project. It will require planned unit development. This evening, however, we're just dealing with the area in green, and this area here is just proposed to be commercial, heavy commercial, so that we can accommodate the production facilities, which are in fact a use by right in the heavy commercial district, as are all the accessory uses. This is a little bit bigger version of that so that you can see the different types of proposed uses going on in the planned unit development in the context of what we're dealing with this evening, and as well as show you that there will be a right-in, right-out to the production studio facilities at the north end of their property, just south of where the existing storage unit buildings are. There is a proposed major connector road being developed with an intersection here on Fairburn, which will require us to have the median cut, and where this road, this spine road, actually sits and occurs is still being worked out logistically, whether it's a little bit here, whether it's a little bit south. Originally, we had seen a version of this at the north end of the clock tower, but somewhere in this range is far enough away from Lee Road to warrant the traffic counts giving us a signalized intersection. Obviously, that will be in consultation with our DOT and the Georgia DOT as to where that occurs. As far as the existing conditions, these are just pictures looking south along Fairburn right now to show you it's just woods and a couple of single-family homes. And right here on the right-hand picture is approximately where that right-in, right-out will be developed for the new production facility. And again, this is a shot of the James Road corridor. This is the single-family home that is the one property on the east side of James Road. And I just wanted to assure, if the owners of the property are here on the meeting this evening and any other neighbor along James Road, that there is a buffer that will be required. There are topographical issues at the west edge of the production facilities proposed site development that will prevent them from moving much further west than what I've shown you, due to the stream buffer setbacks as well as the requirement for stormwater detention, and that approximately represents 100 feet of distance between the property line and the production facilities parking area, along with the required undisturbed buffer of landscaping to remain in place at the rear of the property, again, to help screen their activities from the residential properties to the west, in particular, this single-family home that exists on James Road right now. Again, here's another shot. This is approximately where the north entrance to the what we affectionately call the Clock Tower Retail Center, but the retail center that exists here with Sherwin-Williams, and then there's several other retail centers that we've approved in the past, as well as there'll be a full-service car wash on the other side. This is where we thought the road might come across and be in a signalized intersection, but again, that's still under discussion as to where that will be, depending on the project coming forward on Lee Road's extension. And then here we get to the Lee Road extension towards Bomar. This is Fairburn east-west, and I mean, Lee Road sort of northeast, southwest. Fairburn north-south is what's crossing us here. We reviewed the traffic analysis for the project, and found that it does justify some of the improvements that they're requiring, and we have reviewed the project against the zoning criteria. It is, in fact, supported by all of the criteria, and staff is recommending approval with the following findings. A, that the rezoning will not modify the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. B, importantly, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan categorization of this property as within the urban residential and community village center area, incorporating general and heavy commercial uses, along with multifamily and single-family residential, and by reference is implementing the plans and development pattern called for in the Lee Road Small Area Plan and the Highway 92 Corridor LCI study. C, the uses permissible in the proposed zone district are generally compatible with surrounding properties and D, the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. We ask for a single condition. Number one, that the applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee, DRC, for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the development standards in the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in the specific agency impact statements reviewed in the staff report dated December 14th, 2021. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman, and ask the applicant be made available.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. I believe we have the applicant, Mr. Barfield, and the representative, Mr. Fowler, on the line. If y'all would unmute your system, each one of you state your name and address for the record, then you may present any information you'd like Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Commissioners to hear. You will have a total of 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Barfield, you just noted, is on the line with us digitally, and I'll ask him to weigh in just a few moments. But here in the office with me today are Jimmy and Patricia Howell and their daughter, Adonika Pike, who lives in that house that Phil mentioned a moment ago and circled in red. The Howells own the property. That's the west 20 acres. It's shown in green on the slide that you see there. That's 20 acres of the total of 38 acres. And again, they're here with me in the office. On the line with us is Ms. Dorita Richardson. She is a representative of the Richardson family who owns the portion you see in blue. Another of the Richardson family owns the area that you see in red or pink. And then the Richardson family owns the tract that lies to the south of the blue tract that you see before you there. The total Richardson tract is approximately 133 acres. We'll touch on that more in just a moment. I believe Chris Pumphrey is also on the call as well today. As noted, the request is for the construction of a film production studio or facility of just over 430,000 square feet. It would be built generally as shown on the site plan that Phil showed you a moment ago. It'll be occupied by an internationally recognized film production company or companies, and it will employ an estimated 600 well-compensated employees. The site will be developed in its entirety when the construction gets underway, and the anticipated completion time is 18 months to 2 years. The whole site will be surrounded by an 8-foot fence with significant landscaping. It will have controlled access with 24-hour security. The primary office area, as noted, is that multi-story structure that will front on Highway 92. And beyond that will be the separate spaces for those things that were mentioned: production, support services, workshops, mechanical, specialized services, food services, administration, and then the parking that was also noted on the site plan. This project is part of a master planned project that anticipates the construction of an assortment of uses that you saw on the general master plan a moment ago: commercial, residential, office, institutional, along with the long anticipated extension of Lee Road toward Beaumont Road, all of which is a key component of the overall plan. The rezoning of the balance of this planned community will come before you probably in the spring as soon as the DRI for that phase is completed. We did meet with some of the James Road family, the road that adjoins the Howells property to the west, and concern was expressed by them about a couple of things. First, to shorten the lower detention pond that's on the site plan. Phil, if you could move back to that for a moment. That site plan shows a detention pond that extends in a northeast southwesterly direction. And you just passed it, Phil. That's that site plan. The family members, part of the Peterson family, requested that detention pond be reduced in width. The applicant will use every effort to do just that, although obviously ultimately WSA has design control over all stormwater ponds. The next issue that was expressed by the representatives who live along James Road was to save as many trees as possible. And of course, that will happen with respect to the undisturbed buffers that are shown on the plan, as well as those areas that have county and state imposed setbacks that Phil is highlighting in that area. Mr. Chairman, that's what we have as our presentation. The condition that was proposed by Mr. Schaefer is acceptable to the applicant. But if you have specific questions, Mr. Barfield is on the line and he can address those.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Joe, thank you for that introduction. Mr. Simmons, thank you. I appreciate that, and as well as the commissioners. Phil, I think you did a tremendous job of introducing the project. We're obviously very excited about being in Douglas County. You know, as one of our partners said today, another phone call, community is first. And so I think that the proposed development will definitely address community's needs, but also just be a major catalyst for the rest of the development, as well as the county as a whole. So we're excited about that, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barfield. Mr. Fowler, we appreciate your input there. If y'all would stand by in case there are any questions from the board. At this point in time, I'm going to open the public hearing. We'll have a public hearing with those wishing to speak in favor of this application. There will be 30 minutes allocated and 3 minutes allocated per person. Each person should unmute your system, state your name and address for the record before continuing. At this point in time, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Please go ahead.
Yes, this is Jarita Richardson, and the family members support this rezone.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Hello, my name is Carl Peterson, and I live at 2634 James Road, a parcel that sits directly across the street from this proposed development. I've been involved in the discussions on this since the rezoning signs went up, leading up to myself hosting the meeting that Mr. Fowler discussed a moment ago, where we had multiple landowners of the street come together, and Joe really graciously came out on a Saturday, asked us, fielded our questions and listened to our concerns, which he has expressed back here. I want to voice my project, or my support for this project. I think that this is a great use of this land. I think that every indication, the conversations I've had with Andy representing the proposed usage of this land, he has been incredibly kind and respectful, and every indication of being a great neighbor. Specifically, these look to be great jobs. I have some background in fields adjacent to this, and this to me looks like a great thing for our community and bringing in some really, really high quality of life positions, something that I'm always more for. Carl Peterson, I am in support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson. We appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please unmute your system. You would have 3 minutes.
Hello, yeah, this,
Mr. Clancy, is that you? Go ahead.
I would defer to whoever else was coming in. Well, I'll tell you, I'll do mine now because it'll be very short. I just want to go on record. It's Michael Clancy. I live at 2664 James Road. I just want to go ahead and put my support along with Carl. I've talked with Carl about this as well. I've talked with people from the community, from the planning board and what have you. And I am also very excited about the opportunity to get some good quality positions and employment into the city. So I also am in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. We appreciate your comments. Is there someone else on the line?
Hi, yes, this is LaShara Holbrook. I am at 3395 Lake Valley Way, a homeowner in the Great Thorn subdivision. And initially I was very concerned and a little apprehensive without having, more detail and understanding. I do hope that there is art on the outside of the buildings as opposed to just, giant brick buildings. with the renderings. I see that, and that would be beautiful as opposed to, just a bunch of tall brick buildings. But I do think that this would, especially as a precursor to the additional development, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the final beginning of the extension for Lee Road. I think that this would be a great addition to Douglas County and to our this area and the neighborhoods over here that we pretty much thought we had been completely forgotten about and dismissed by the county. So I do think that this is exciting, and it is something that I would support. So you guys changed my mind, because initially I was very, very concerned.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. We certainly appreciate them. Is anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Unmute your system. You would have 3 minutes.
Yes, this is Maggie Peters, Edna Margaret Peters. I'm at 2629 James Road, and my property will directly abut to this project. And I am also in favor of the project. I feel like it will bring in a lot of tax revenue to the county, and good jobs they're hard to find these days. The only concern that I have is the elevation of the building. I don't want to look in my front porch and look up way up to a big building. I'm hoping that it'll be slightly sloped somewhat, where I won't have a giant building overshadowing my property. And that's the only thing I'm concerned about. But yes, I'm for this project.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peters. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Hearing no one wishing to speak, or seeing no one attempting to unmute your system or get on the program, I will close the public hearing in favor of this matter. I will open the opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please unmute your system, state your name and address for the record. Each person would have 3 minutes for a total time allocated of 30 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please go ahead. Okay, hearing no one wishing to speak, or seeing no one trying to unmute your system and get our attention, I will close the public hearing on this matter. Mr. Fowler, Mr. Barfield, I appreciate your presentation and your stating that you are in agreement with the findings and the conditions that were read into the record by Mr. Schaefer.
Andy, could you confirm that for the record?
Sir?
Rick, we'll just get Andy to confirm that for the record, if you will.
Okay, Mr. Barfield?
Confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of Mr. Schaefer or of the applicant or Mr. Fowler?
Chairman, it's Rob Thomas.
Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
I have a question of the applicant. So, we've been briefed pretty heavily on this before the, special call meeting. There's a couple questions I have. Just one is, will you guys be utilizing local talent, local industry, local businesses in support of your business? And, what type, if you can answer that?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the question, Mr. Thomas. So, yes, one of the fortunate things about the state of Georgia is that we have a fantastic infrastructure for this exact use. So if it's everything from the construction of the buildings to once it's up and operating to the workforce that's going to be there, be it the makeup artists, production, film, including talent. And that's one of the benefits, and that's one of the reasons why our partners are wanting to come and develop here. It's because of the state of Georgia. So, yes, I think you'll see local, I would say, individuals from Douglas County and around the greater state of Georgia involved in every aspect of the production.
Okay, well, good. That's important to know. I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Mr. Chairman, this is Teresa Knowles. I have one question for for Mr. Barfield, please.
Go ahead.
Mr. Barfield, which building will be your first constructed? You have several buildings. Where will you begin?
You know, good question, Ms. Knowles. So, if you wouldn't mind, Phil, if you're headed back to the site plan, I think that's probably the best place to start. The office building up front is probably going to take the longest to build out of everything. So naturally, we'll start there. It's also important that we try to get some of the production studios on as quickly as possible. But, and so I think it's going to be across the board, Ms. Knowles, that we will be building emphatically very quickly. As Mr. Fowler alluded to, there are large international production companies that are chomping at the bit to come to this development. So speed is going to be important, and that's why we said, right off the bat, we're going to start development of the entire property. I would say that the office and probably the production studios up close to the office will probably be the first to come online.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, this is Frank Payne. Mr. Barfield, what's the timeline of completion?
Good question. So, Mr. Payne, once we go through the rezoning efforts, there'll be a permitting component of that. I would say that with the help of Douglas County, hopefully we can have a shovel in the ground sometime in the spring. And as Mr. Fowler had mentioned at the beginning, it's about an 18-month to a 24-month build.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mr. Curry. This is for Mr. Barfield. I know one of the residents had concerns about the heights of the buildings. Do you know what some of the heights would be there?
I sure do. Yeah, Mr. Curry, I sure do. So the production building typically a 30 to 35 foot clear inside. So once you get to the top of the building, it's probably 40 to 45 feet max. The topo works in our favor. It rises to the north. I think that we've already had a licensed tree arborist come out and do a full study of the property. So in an effort to keep as many trees, especially in the buffer, that we can. So we are very cognizant of adjacent properties, and so we will do our best to not only minimize the amount of structure that's close to, and I think this is a great example right here. If you look at to the west, the two rectangles that you're seeing farthest to the west actually fill exactly. Those are actually, that's parking. And then the other one to the south is a storage warehouse that's going to be lower than our production facilities. So the buildings closest to the property owners are actually going to be some of the lower statue buildings relative to an office building that's going to sit on Fairburn, which will be the tallest.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, Madam Chairman, I will yield the floor to you for questions from yourself for the Board of Commissioners. Madam Chair.
Great, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, do we have any questions for Mr. Barfield or either our attorney, the attorney, Joe Fowler? Okay, Board, no questions? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'll
There
give
you go.
years
You were
time.
trying to get a loose. Oh, okay, you were trying to
Curious.
stick your mic on. Okay. Commissioner Robertson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Greetings, Mr. Barfield. I am the commissioner of the 2nd District, and so they once said that a squirrel could run from Maine to the Mississippi across the roots of trees and never hit the ground. America was first founded, and so and so the coexistence of our existing natural infrastructure is important in Douglas County. And I know you guys probably have produced a lot around the nation and in different areas, but for Douglas County, this is important. The coexistence in that. How do we bring this urban, this urban initiative? I hear it. But you got to know where you're dropping it at. It's right there in sort of a bedroom community that's growing up. And you're right, this is serving as a catalyst And so what you're hearing from our citizens, I'm very in tune to, because I can't see, I have to listen. Is it, okay, is it going to be compatible? We appreciate you, we welcome you, but are you going to comport with the feeling of our environment? You know, I listen to the local, you know, you're going to hire local. I know minorities are important for that. For me, it's disabled. I just want to be able to turn my TV on and I can see that Captain Marvel went over the moon and she did this. I need that secondary audio. So my question is, how in tune are you to everybody as much as you can be? Every voice matters. That elevation matters. My concern, if you just go drop a box or a part, that artwork, like, don't discount that. That's a master planned area, right? I mean, this is the process we went through for a master plan, and all the citizens in that immediate area involved, and even now even more. But it was important, like, okay, God, this is the first time we get to do a real live, work, and play. I get downtown Douglas. This is Douglas County. This is reshaping who we are for the next 150 years. It's that important from an east-west. I mean, you're the catalyst. And so we're like, okay, do you hear us? We finally have grown up, 10th largest, 11th largest county, 8th most dense, right? And we're coming out of our agrarian, a little rural, and we're like, okay, now we're going to play big. We know your presence here, but do you get us? Do you know how important it is when you drop this? It's got, to your point, it's part of a bigger initiative. The residential, the office, the institutional, it's all of it. It becomes a signature area. So I only have one thing. Do you understand that this is considered a signature area for Douglas County? And will you just take on the spirit of that? I just need that to be done. Do you hear? Did you read it? Do you feel our citizens? Do you hear me representing? I'm the go-between between those citizens and you. Do you hear what I just said? Can you embrace that? I just need that one condition acknowledged, that you understand what we're trying to do here, and you'll do for the spirit of what was written and for the letter of the law and the conditions, that you'll make this one of the best places. You'll fulfill the very essence of what you have promised here today. Can you say that, Mr. Barfield?
Commissioner Robinson, we 100% can. And I think one of the, as you all know, and we've talked, I've had the opportunity, and I'm from Atlanta, so I've actually worked in Douglas County, so I know the county really well, Douglasville as well. And, getting to know Chris, who I think does a fantastic job for the county over the past 8 months, has really given me an inside look at how important we are and how important the county is to us. So we definitely believe we are a catalyst. We're going to bring high-paying jobs, a lot of them. We're going to create, there's going to be a spawn off of what we're doing, and we know that. So it's important. And I think to the Mrs. that's mentioned the artwork, that's a big deal to us. That's why we went ahead and put it on our first renderings. And in fact, our partner, they've done production studios in New York and also in London. What they've also done there is produced artwork that actually coincides with the community that they're in. So it might not only be from a film, it might be actually something that pays homage to the county that we're in. So we're excited for that. We're excited to show that off. And again, we think it's going to be something fun and is really going to bring a lot of life and to the master plan.
I thank you for that. That's long enough, but that's good enough, Madam Chair. I'll be sensitive to my peers. Thank you, Mr. Barfield. Madam Chair, I yield.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Robinson, and thank you so much, Mr. Barfield, for elaborating. Any other remarks, Board of Commissioners?
Yes, Madam.
Okay. Commissioner Mitchell, you have the floor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, great renderings, great. It looks good. But my question though is, I know it's kind of small, and I'm trying to see what you got here. How many buildings are we speaking of, or is it just the two that you saw, or with the office space, or help me to understand to include the studios? What am I looking at?
Sure. So as you look at this plan, thanks, Phil, for bringing this up. You've got the office building, which you saw in that rendering, which was closest to you. That's on Fairburn Road. That's up at the top right corner. Thank you, Phil. And then what you've got is 4 pods. And so, thank you, Phil. That's pod 1, and then pod 2 to the west, pod 3 down below, and pod 4. Those are all similar in character. And so, Phil, if you wouldn't mind flipping back to the rendering. So you see that where it says 1 right there? There's actually 4 of those buildings And Phil, if you wouldn't mind, I think there's another rendering right before that, or right. Thank you. So the brick facade right there, the 2-story brick facade that you're seeing, that's a pod in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's 4 of those. They look very similar. I think depending on the art that we put on each of these buildings and stuff, but the character is very similar. Then you've got, in the middle of those, you've got this workshop building, which also has a 10,000 square foot commissary, full service kitchen to supply, obviously, for staff and talent. And then there's also, if you want to back out, Phil, to the site plan again. Thank you. You've got the warehouse down below. Thank you. That's actually where your carpenters will build sets. So you build sets in there, and then you pull them, and you actually pull them out and put them into the production studios to the left or right. And then to the far west, there is that's parking and then storage. And again, that's for sets, whatever else may be. That's where we would hold that material. That's a 1-story building, lower in nature relative to the rest of the buildings across the site.
So you could have at least 2 or 3 projects going on at any given time, correct?
At least. In fact, the tenants that we are talking with, it's anywhere from 90 to 110% occupied as a result of double shoots and those kind of things. So there's always going to be, it's not going to sit dormant. There's always going to be activity, people coming and going and working in the space.
Okay, so I'm assuming these guys will come in and lease the space and do what they do, and then kind of once they're done with their shooting and all that good stuff, then they'll pull out, and go and cut up their film and do whatever they do.
Correct. But they'll also be able to cut film here as well. That's part of the office space is to accommodate that as well.
So you'll be doing more of a leasing with this, and
correct. It is.
Go ahead.
Correct. Those are leases to major international production companies. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And so the jobs that you're speaking of, will that come through those that you're leasing to, or it's going to be what you're needing to manage what you got here on site?
Both. You'll have jobs coming from the actual tenants, and you'll have jobs coming from the actual management of the operation, which is everything from makeup to food service to security, landscaping.
Got it.
You name it.
And any idea, do you kind of have a range of what you anticipate from your end on the job the job side of things that you'll be looking at versus, your tenants, because that's going to be fluctuating up and down. Just don't know kind of what that is until they come and decide on what they're trying to do.
Correct. I think that's going to fluctuate as well as kind of the jobs that our partners will be providing. But put it this way, there's 650 automobile spaces on the site.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't include talent trailers and other kind of parking means.
Okay, got it. Okay, alrighty. Well, it looks interesting, and I'm glad to hear those citizens and District 2 Commissioner Vice Chairman Robinson kind of, listening and you're listening to understanding what the citizens that are in favor of this and kind of what their eyes and views and what they anticipate to see in the future of what this building and these buildings will turn out to be, though. So looks good. Thank you again, and I appreciate your cue. Thank you again. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I had a conversation by myself. Thank you so much, Commissioner Mitchell. Thank you so much, Mr. Barfield, and also Attorney Fowler. If there are no other questions from the board, I yield back to you, Chairman.
Madam Chair?
Oh, Vice Chairman Robinson?
Yes, Madam Chair. Is Chris Pumphrey still here?
Chris Pumphrey, are you here today? Are you on the line?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Robinson would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
He has a question for you.
Yeah, this is, since we've got all team on deck, I appreciate this site-specific project. And Chris, it was alluded to, but can you just, for the citizens that may not have heard it, and just for the record, when we talk about economic development in Douglas, when we talk about Douglas County economic development, and we talked about master planning, and you've got 4 commission districts, got very different character areas. Can you talk just a little bit about how this is part of an economic development initiative and how we think about it and how it's, can you talk about that for a minute, Chris, that this was intentional, please?
Sure. So I'll first say, and thank you all for having us and taking the time out to have this special called meeting. Yes, definitely. We set out our strategic plan several years ago when we identified our target sectors. And in those target sectors, we really wanted to start to recruit the different types of businesses to the community that we didn't necessarily already have, and really start to set the community on a different trajectory. And so there were basically 3 buckets, and of those buckets that this project falls under to is our media and entertainment. As we see all of the growth in film and TV production that Georgia has, basically we're second to Los Angeles, and as it relates to that, we definitely felt that we were in a great position to capitalize on that. Furthermore, we also knew we needed to develop sites that would accommodate our target sectors. And so we set out several years ago in looking at this particular corridor, understanding the transportation infrastructure that was to be coming with the Lee Road extension, and seeing that you've got a beautiful property here that has a great potential to really be transformative for the community. And so we started that process with you all support in doing the master plan by Clark Patterson Lee. Went through some iterations of that, identified a master development partner to work with us in basically bringing a vision to the forefront that worked within the marketplace, but then also fit within our targeted goals. And so this project, fits and checks all of those boxes. This development checks those boxes for us, but it was really kind of the leadership in identifying the site and making sure that this was a target site for us to move on. And then obviously when the opportunities arise, you then have the real estate to work with. And that's what brings us here today.
I appreciate it. So again, we appreciate, in addition to the jobs, probably the 9 to 10 figure investment, all the things that come along with this as far as working within the context of our citizens' expectation, how they would like to see their community shaped. The citizens could reach us and we can make decisions, from wide openings to economic development to all those things to the buildings that go up. It was to watch this be manifested. It's great. This is how government should work. That we are responsible to the citizens. So I've got to always point back to the citizens. This is what they asked for. This is their master plan. And so hopefully they're pleased with that. So Madam Chair, I just wanted to bring that forward. Chris had to tie this off to make it see, like I know we're probably going to another commission district here soon on, spreading this out, but nonetheless, this was important. I'm Chair to bring it up. I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Robinson. Board of Commissioners, if there are no other remarks, I will yield back to Chairman Simmons. Chairman Simmons, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Planning and Zoning Board. You have heard the discussion, you've heard the presentations, seen the presentations. I would like to have a motion from Planning and Zoning Board, please.
This is Frank Payne. I make a motion to approve application Z 2021-77, a request for a rezoning for residential low density to heavy commercial for production facilities with the following findings and conditions as outlined by the staff.
That's right.
Impediment second.
Thank you. I have a motion and I have a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Hearing or seeing none, I will call for a vote on the motion. All wishing to vote in favor of the motion, please respond with a yay. Those against the motion, a nay. Mr. Thomas?
Yay.
Ms. Knowles?
Yay.
Mr. Penniman?
Yay.
Mr. Curry?
Yay.
Mr. Payne?
Yay.
And Mr. Nicholson is not here. Madam Chairman, I will throw it back over to the Board of Commissioners with a motion to approve Z 2021-77 with the findings and conditions that were read into the record and agreed to by the applicant. Madam Chair?
All right, thank you so much, Chairman Simmons. Board of Commissioners, you've heard all the questions and answers. Do we have a motion?
Chair, may I?
Yes, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make the motion that the Board of Commissioners accepts and approves the application Z 2021-77 for a rezoning from residential low density to heavy commercial with the facts, findings, and conditions as recommended by the planning and zoning staff. And
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second by Commissioner Mitchell. We have a motion and a second. Board, any discussion? We have a motion and a second. When I call your district, please respond accordingly. District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
yes,
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Chairman, yes. We have a 5-0 unanimous vote and the motion carries. I yield back to you, Chairman Simmons.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, Board of Commissioners. Mr. Fowler, Mr. Barfield, we wish you the best with this project going forward. I hope you have a pleasant and happy Christmas holiday season. Mr. Roberts, do we have anything else on our agenda for tonight?
No, sir, we do not. I just want to thank you and the P&Z board for being available for this special call meeting and for your service this year on the P&Z board. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas. See you guys.
Everybody, Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Good night, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Is adjourned. So thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good night.